Welcome to the Mid-Morning Show with Kamil. I am your host Kamil, and my today's guest is Philip. Hello, Philip.
Hello.
So, Philip, how you doing today? How are you feeling?
I'm fine. I'm feeling fine. Pretty
Would
all
you
right.
would you like to introduce yourself a little bit? Like, where do you come from? Where do you live right now? If it's not the
Yes.
same country.
Yes, I come from Denmark originally, and I now live in Prague, Czech Republic, and have been here for I don't even know, like more than a year, and previously lived in many other countries, including Kamil, some country of Slovakia.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So Prague. How do you find Prague these days in the winter season?
um, I have seen Prague in winter before, twice actually, because I was also here on a winter holiday. And it is, I think it's commonly referred to as the winter city because it's beautiful in the snow. But right now we don't have snow; we just have cold.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it was better like 2 months ago
It
before
was
it got
bad.
cold.
Okay. Is it snowing there now or
No,
not?
no, no, no. If it was snowing, it would be lovely because it would be pretty. But right now
Yeah.
it's not. It's just gray, rainy, cold. So it's like Denmark.
Okay. So it reminds you of your own country.
Yeah, it does. I actually went on a long hike yesterday on in the forest, but we also walked across the fields, and it was frosty and really, really foggy, and the
Mm-hmm.
sky was just gray and it was flat. I was just like, wow, this is like being home. So that was quite nice.
Or all right. So, would you call yourself a regular hiker?
Um, Used to be, but not so much anymore. Like not that often. It's
Mm-hmm.
actually been quite a while since I took like a longer walk in nature. But historically, I think I am. Like I've taken also some really long hikes, including I walked 450 kilometers through the Arctic uh, a few years ago. So I really enjoy it. I think in spring or summer I would like to walk the I don't remember the name. I'm so bad with the pilgrimage route or one of them in northern Spain. That would be fun.
Oh yeah, yeah. I heard about that.
Yeah,
About the pilgrimage route. I knew.
yeah,
I had a friend who went. It's not like I have. I know any more details. I just know one friend once said like, "It's going to Spain. Now, what are you gonna do there?" And they were like, "Yeah, going for the pilgrimage." But isn't that
yeah.
more like for if you are religious?
Historically it is. I think it's called. It just popped into my head. It's Camino de Santiago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would like to do that this or next year. But yes, like a pilgrimage is historically a religious thing, right? But
But
nowadays people do it as a hike.
you don't associate with religion yourself.
No, I'm not religious at all. I just know it's a beautiful route,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a very famous hike, very
And
beautiful.
you said you went to Arctic.
Yeah.
Where was that?
So I started in the north of Norway and walked into the north of Sweden and all the way down to a city called Hemavan.
So you had to like camp on the road on the
Yeah,
road.
it took 3 weeks.
Like, was it cold or like during
Yeah,
summer?
it was in summer, but it was still very cold, especially like a few of the peaks. We actually had to stay in emergency hut one day because it was so cold and like just deep, deep, deep snow. And on the top of one of the mountains, they have a hut for emergencies.
So how did
And
you like came to this decision to do something like that even to because is there anything to see in that environment?
yeah, it's beautiful, super, super beautiful. Especially like the beginning of the route is mostly was very snowy, of course, but not really even like there was snow, but more like in patches. And then as you walk down into Sweden, um, the I for us because the route was a bit longer, but like this middle part of the route is
Mm-hmm.
called not Kungsleden, but it also goes over Kebnekaise, Sweden's tallest mountain, and it's a really really famous hike
Mm-hmm.
because it's beautiful. It's kind of easy, like it's tough because it's cold and it's long. But sorry for the dog. But there's water everywhere because the glaciers, right? So there's fresh water everywhere. You can pick it up from the ground. There's a lot of supplies for buying food. So it's kind of like easy in that sense. You don't risk your life. It's just cold and long.
Okay. How did you feel at the end of it?
Very accomplished. And I remember this feeling of coming home and how easy things felt, like going back to work and like this, because it's really, really mentally tough to be outside in the cold for more than 3 weeks straight in rain, humid, cold, frost. It's really like mentally tough. So coming back, I felt like normal life was very easy.
Okay. I have never done anything of sort. I am not hiker either. You know, I don't go on any walks in the nature or the mountains. I'm not saying I'm not hating on it, right? I just never never had that idea in my head to go. I know it's a very popular hobby for people.
Some people.
For most of the people, at least here, especially here in Czech Republic.
Czech people love hiking.
Exploring nature and all that. So I might one day, you know, change, but not that person at this moment. But anyway, thank you for that you know interesting story, definitely on that hike. And let's move on to what is our main topic for today. It is maybe kind of similar to what we had last time on my last episode where we discussed. You should check that episode out, definitely, about China and East Asia, Taiwan, when the world, how is the world there? And I forgot also. You know, I said on the last episode that I'm going to do this now at the beginning of the episode, and again I forgot, so I will tell it now. Please, you know, like the video on YouTube, leave a comment, subscribe, all these good things. You can also now leave comments on Spotify. So, you know, this all will help me to feel even more motivated to produce these things for you. And as I said before, this is not making me any money, at least right now. You know, this is still my passion, my hobby, this podcast. And so so don't feel like if you giving like is free also for you. But anyway, I would appreciate, you know, even if you like this one, you know, like before you even start listening. That way you will not forget, and I'm sure you will like it, you know. But anyway, that aside, let's go back to what I wanted to say. The main topic is because Philip is a very interesting person. I know him personally also, and we have we share a trait between us that is that we like to talk a lot about all and not just in general. I mean like in general, like we like to talk a lot about some things that we are passionate about. And that was one of the reasons I also wanted Philip to come on this, because you know, I'm not saying that it's something unheard of to be talkative, but maybe these days, you know, people are less, I would say, especially after Corona and all that. You know, more people are more introverts than they were before, and maybe not that into deep and long discussions. So I think. So I thought I had to think hard, like what I would ask Philip, because if you ask him anything, he will give you something always, and also a lot. So I think we could do today is because I had Iben before, who was from Norway, so we talked about Norway before a bit, and but I never talked about Denmark here. And Denmark is very interesting country with really rich history. down to the Viking times.
Correct.
And so don't get confused by if you look at the map. Denmark is a pretty small country in comparison to like its compatriots in Europe or like in Scandinavia.
Actually,
But
fun fact about this: do you know that since you're from Slovakia and I'm from Denmark, do you know that the landmass of the two countries, like excluding Greenland, of course, like excluding foreign things that belong to Denmark, but like the actual country of Denmark and Slovakia has almost the exact same size, and
does
almost
it? Yeah?
and almost exactly the same amount of people as well.
I thought Denmark is smaller than Slovakia, like
No,
by
it's
landmass.
almost exactly the same, and
Okay.
almost exactly the same amount of people as well.
Yeah, but two various, vastly different countries.
Yeah, this is another. I can lead that into more. In Denmark, I think 80% of the whole country is covered by fields, and in Slovakia, 80% is covered by mountains and forest.
Mm.
So it's like it's similar in a way. It is completely different, right? We are flat and full of fields, and you are hilly, full of forest.
Mm-hmm.
So that leads to like about the same percentage of the country being populated by people, and about the same size and about the same amount of people.
Okay.
So it's kind of funny.
So to start talking about Denmark, I have never been there, but I definitely plan to visit in the future. But what would be my first question for you? Like why did you, and let's start with this, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because you have moved from Denmark in some time, so
yeah, years, yeah.
And you don't plan to go there, like, or to move there, right, anytime soon.
No.
So let's get to let's start with why did you want to leave Denmark? Because I guess that would be interesting to ask, because Denmark is taken, at least in our view, let's say Eastern European view, people, or Central Europe people, that Denmark belongs to West, to the West
it does.
Europe, and
It does.
it's also based on a lot of like geopolitical factors, historical factors, also financial. That Denmark is is doing like is on a different level, like statistically also, so it's real.
Yeah.
But maybe it's not perfect. So
It's not.
what made you leave, or like explore to go somewhere else?
A few things, but I'd say, like, first of all, it's a really, really nice place to live. It's like, it's not a joke that people say that it's one of the best countries to live in. It definitely is, but it has its downsides. So I left primarily for two reasons. There's many things I don't like. I always call it or consider it like mini Japan, because it's extremely strict. Everything is very, very strict.
Yeah, and I want to get to that. We can explore those, but continue.
Yeah, but that led to some things, which one was a major thing for me. So I decided I wanted to build my own company, and I started doing that in Denmark. But the thing is, we are very, very highly taxed, and it's a very expensive country to be in, which means if you want to support yourself, you have to make tremendously a lot more money than you would in another country, right? Because the state takes most of it, but you also, after they took the money, you need more leftover just because of how expensive it is. So that was a big struggle. And on top of that, I really wanted to go travel, and that is technically not allowed for Danes. Like, for extended period of time, we can only leave the country for, I don't know exactly the amount of time, but it's like months. And then if you're away for more than some months, if you have a company, it will be shut down. You lose your residency, and so on. And this actually happened to me. I had my company shut down by Denmark, and lost my residency and everything.
You mean tax residency, or?
No, residency and tax residency. Tax liability, resident. I was without an address. Basically, like, I had a citizenship, but I was not a resident of any country, so basically like a nomad, right?
But I didn't know about this. So this is something that actually can happen, because I'm not aware of
Yeah.
anything like that
Yeah.
in Slovakia. That if you
There
leave
is not. So
Slovakia,
that's why actually when this happened to me, the first thing I did 2 weeks later. No, actually I was in Greece at the time, so I went to the Slovak embassy or notary. Sorry, not the embassy, a notary in Slovakia, and I filed for a permanent residency and opening a company in Slovakia from Greece. And then I had to go to Slovakia like a week later to register at the police. And I basically moved into that country officially, right? So I got address in Slovakia, opened a Slovak company.
you can get
and
it, but there are no rules, like you have to stay, I don't know, for 5 years or something like that to get residency.
No. Well,
No?
yeah, maybe like permanent, but I have a 5-year card.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like I have a 5-year ID card in Slovakia, which I still have. But you don't have these laws about not being able to leave Slovakia. So basically,
It's
when I had
crazy.
so when I had everything set up, I could go travel like I wanted to. And I had a company again, and I was taxed much less and so on. So it was a much better situation. But about being kicked out if you leave, I found out somewhere that there's only 5 countries in the world that do this to the same extent. Like where they take basically, if you have a business, they shut it down, you lose your residency and stuff. And it's like China is one, North Korea is one, Denmark is one, and there's 2 more I don't remember. But it's like it's quite extreme.
But if you leave Denmark to work in some other country, so you are not leaving a company in Denmark, that's still you can still lose the residency.
Yeah, if you're gone for I don't know exactly the time. I think it's 6 months. But if you're gone for 6 months,
if you come every 6 months, you don't lose the residency.
No, you will still lose it because you have to stay. Then, if you leave for 6 months, you have to come back and stay for 6 months. So like, you can be back, you can be away half the time. But if you surpass that, then you do lose your residency. But you can get it back.
But you can get it back if you.
Yeah, but then you have to move back permanently, right? So
okay.
Which I did not want to do, so it was not an option. I had to go and get ID and residency in another country that would not kick me out.
So this is not in any other Scandinavian countries.
No, it's 5 countries in the world. I don't remember the 2 last, but definitely China, North Korea, Denmark, and 2 more. So it's quite a strict. It's really strict.
But there
country.
might be some expectations, right? What if you send them like you are working somewhere and
you would still lose your residency if let's say if I moved to work, you can go temporarily, of course, like for a summer job.
But even if you don't have residence, you can freely come back because you're still a citizen.
Yeah, of course I can. I can always move back. I just have to go to the commune or like the government and say, hey, I live here now, and then they'd be like, oh, great, welcome back, and give me my CPR card, as we call it. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not a problem to move back. It's just
so that's the one issue that I haven't even heard of before.
Yeah.
So then you touched on you said this, but you said 2 primary reasons. So that was one, or was there like 2?
Yeah, the high cost of living and high taxes, which is really difficult if you want to support yourself. Like,
so let's say you worked in Slovakia, you are working now in Czech Republic. Yeah. So
yeah.
How would you compare the tax on the like the salary? How
of course it's much lower.
How do they calculate? What was the base percentage in Denmark?
It depends. It's progressive, so it depends on how much you earn. I can look it up for you if you would like.
So yeah, but it's progressive here also, like in Czech Republic. You also get taxed.
I think they're adding that now, but like in Denmark, it can be ridiculously high. It can be higher than 50%. So it's really high, and if you have like a basic, the kind of low wage, I think it's normally like in the range of 38 to 40, low 40% tax.
But that's still a lot.
It's crazy.
But in the tax, is the tax plus like some sort of health insurance or?
Yeah, it's everything. But like it's really, this is another thing that I guess is a little bit of a hot topic or unpopular opinion, because I found it hilarious now when I moved away. Well, I would like to say first, okay, so we have stupidly high taxes, the highest in the world, right? And then also on everything else. So like the sugar taxes are really high. Of course, fat tax, tobacco tax, alcohol tax, car tax, property tax. Everything is taxed insanely, ridiculously high in Denmark, like the highest in the world on almost everything. So it's stupidly high. But at the same time, Danish people are the happiest in the world to pay their taxes. So
why is that?
Yeah, that's what I'll get to. Which I find, and
Okay.
now you are from Slovakia, right? Let's say, I love Slovakia, so I would never say anything bad about it. But if you talk on a people's first
I
thought,
also haven't lived in Slovakia for over 10 years.
yeah, I know, but you can also use Czech Republic as an example. Slovakia is just a better example because it's more like in people's eyes when you just consider thinking of one or the other country, like you would probably think that Denmark has a lot of advantages, right, over Slovakia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the reasons why Danish people are so happy to pay their taxes, they would usually say something like, if I'm sick, I can go to the doctor for free.
Yeah.
I can go to the hospital for free. I cannot go to the dentist. That is very expensive in Denmark. But like hospitals are free, doctors are free, education is free.
Is the healthcare free even if you are unemployed?
Yeah, it is. In any case, it will be free.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that is true for Slovakia. Also, I had to pay health insurance in Slovakia because I was self-employed. So like I had to pay that. But it was such a shock for me to move to, or like to see in a bunch of other countries, and it's the same thing here in Czech Republic, that actually there is pretty much the same amount of welfare. You know, like there's free hospitals, there is free schools, there's free doctors. It's all the same stuff, and then on top of that, like there's a bunch of things lacking in Denmark.
But the taxes are going up to something there, right? So maybe the welfare is higher, and like the welfare benefits, like if you're unemployed or the pensions aren't.
No, the same here. This is another point that I forgot. Yeah, that's true. Like if you lose your job, you have unemployment benefits and things like this. It's the same thing here. Like there's all the same stuff. There's one exception.
Yeah, it is, but Denmark must have it higher. Like
no. It's very low, dude. Like we have something called like you can get something called A-kasse, which you pay for, but it's basically like a workers' union, like a union, right? And it's similar to a union, and they will cover a percentage of your wage if you lose your job, but you have to pay for this every month in the case that you might lose your job. But if you are on public benefits like welfare, then it's very low. I can tell you how much it is if you would like.
Okay.
But do you want it in Czech crowns?
But isn't the unemployment benefit calculated based on how was your last salary?
No. It's a flat rate. But if you have the A-kasse thing, that's something, again, is you pay for this. It's like a union. And if you lose your job, they will pay a percentage of what you made before, I believe, for a year. But you have to pay for this yourself. Otherwise, you won't get it. You will get public welfare money. But
so where is the tax?
Yeah, the amount is 42,000 Czech crowns, but then you have to consider that you pay 30-something% tax of that, and the prices in Denmark, right? So that's our unemployment pay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very low.
Where is the tax going then? The tax
I don't
money.
know. I don't know.
What is the government using that extra amount in comparison to other countries?
I don't know. We have one difference, but so does these countries. But like we have one difference, which is you also get paid to go to school in Denmark, which you do not here or any other country in the world, I think. I don't think there's anywhere else where they pay you to go to school, but they do in Denmark. So that's another bonus that we get that nowhere else kind of gets for our really high tax. But that's the only one I can think of.
What kind of school, like university or lower?
Any, as long as you're older than 16 or 18. Like after primary school and you're above 16 or 18 or something, they will pay you to go to school.
Like about monthly basis?
Yeah. You get a wage. Yeah. So yeah, that's one thing that's of course, it's really, really awesome.
The only thing I heard about Denmark and schooling is that if you go there to study, you can get some grant, even if you're not Danish.
Yeah, you do. But as a foreigner.
And then you can work, But there is a limited amount, like 10 hours only or
No,
something.
no. That's not how it works. But it's true. Like if you come as a foreigner, you have to work to get the pay from the school, like to get your school wage, if you want to call it. It's called SU. But if you, as a foreigner, want to get paid to attend school, you will have to work. I think
But it's only limited amount of hours per month.
You can work as much as you want, but you have to work a minimum of, I think, 10 hours a week or something.
No, but I had a friend from Slovakia who went to study there. And he
Yeah,
said there is a limited amount. I remember that how much he can work a month as a student.
Really? Okay. Well, I haven't heard of that, but I know that there's a minimum. If he wants to get paid from the school, there's a minimum that he has to work.
Maybe
But that's only
he
because
was
he's
not
foreigner.
getting paid from Denmark, but it was just some. But I definitely remember that he said that he couldn't work like as much as he wants.
That might be true. Like, I don't know. It also depends. I think that it's technically illegal to work more than a certain amount of, like, more than a reasonable amount of hours. Similar to like in entire EU, certain jobs are limited, right, in their working hours. For example, hospital shifts and truck drivers and things like this. I could imagine that Denmark has this for everything, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
But yes, okay. So we get paid to go to school. That's one benefit we get. But other than that, it's actually like I have the same amount of welfare now with 15% tax as I did in Denmark. And then at the same time, I had a car in Slovakia. There was no tax on it. Like only to register it in the beginning, I paid like 200 euro or something. But in Denmark, you pay 1.5 times the value of the car. So if you buy a car for, let's say, 100,000 euro, then the license plates are 150,000 euro. Right? And in Slovakia, I paid 200 euro. And then
in
Denmark,
Slovakia, it's also in Slovakia it is expensive to what is expensive in Slovakia about cars?
Insurance.
Is that you one thing? Insurance, yes, but also when you buy a car, and you have to like transfer the ownership to you, right?
Yeah, because you need new license plates and all this shit.
Yeah, and
it's
that's what I also for me, like what I don't understand, and I hate this fee for like transferring the ownership.
Denmark also has that.
Is stupidly high in Slovakia.
Yeah, but it's the same in Denmark. It's also
because it's based on the year of the production of the car, but it's also based on the power output.
Yeah, I know. It's also been I know.
Which is actually stupid, right? So you buy a car which is like you already have to worry about that when you're making insurance, right? Because they consider all the factors, also mileage and all that. But for some reason, the Slovak police considers power output as something that they're basing the fee on. So
I think it's because
car you buy, the more expensive is the transfer of ownership fee, which can get really high, like in thousands of euros.
Look, in Denmark, you pay when you buy the car and you want to register it. You have this like 1.5 times the value of the car to get the license plates, right? But then we also pay every few months, or I think it's twice a year. Actually, you pay a really big for certain cars, like for an electric car or a really, really eco-friendly car, it's a relatively small amount. But if you had like a old diesel car or a supercar or something, we have emissions taxes, which takes all this stuff into account. And it can be stupidly expensive. But I think this is Slovakia's attempt of doing something similar, right? That it's like if a car has more horsepower, it typically will have worse emissions.
No, well, I don't think it's connected to emissions because it's been like that for
many
years. Even before the emissions and Green Deal and all that. So it's just that the system that's put in place. So it actually,
don't you think it's a way that people who buy a more expensive car pays more for the fees? Because like, of course, and it's actually, I have seen this graph and it's within the reasonable car range, let's say like normal amount of horsepower up to 200 or something, it's not expensive. But when you go up to like hundreds, like sports cars, supercar.
If you go over 200 already, it's getting ridiculous. And it doesn't have to be expensive car for it to have like, I don't know, 300 horsepower. It is, I mean, like, it's not. It doesn't mean like expensive car, high power. It's not.
Maybe nowadays, but like you say also yourself that it's an old thing. So let's say if they implemented this like 15 years ago, and they didn't change it, which in Slovakia's case I would not be that surprised if it's exactly the same as it was. But
Well,
I
now
think
it's even
it
higher
could
this
be.
year.
Okay, but I think it's I could imagine that it's like a thing because I have seen it before and I
They
remember
raised the
the like
prices this year, but not.
intense. Yeah, I know that. Also, I think also highways, right? The highway pass.
Highways, yeah, is more
Yeah,
expensive, and
yeah,
the cost of transferring.
yeah,
I would be okay with like if there is a fee on the police station because you have to go to police station to pay this.
yeah.
I would
That's
be
what we have in
okay
Denmark.
with like if you pay for the license plate. Okay, they have to like manufacture the license plate. But where is this? But my question that I never got the answer to, is like where
I get
is
it.
this money going? Like I pay you, I don't know, let's say
They go
five
probably
hundred
to the
euros.
roads.
I
They go
pay
to
you
the
five.
roads and things like this.
But I pay you 500. No, yeah, but this money is going to police. This fee. This is not like a tax.
Yes, but your police. This is another thing in Slovakia, that your police also, and you know this from living there, obviously, and family and so on. But like the police at the end of every month, I believe they're very aggressive because they have this really high what is it called? Like they have a certain amount of value that they have to give out in tickets. They have a quota on tickets.
Mm-hmm.
So their wages and everything is like taken into account to this quota. But I think at the end of the day, in every country, if the police makes money, it's not like per se police money, it's state money, right? It's government money. So like road police and changing of car ownership and things like this, it probably goes to the roads. And maybe even some of it to hospitals and things.
Yeah, in Slovakia, one thing for sure, you'll never find out where the tax money is going.
Oh, no, I know that.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
and if you try to find out, you'll maybe die.
Yeah, because yes.
Yeah.
Well, so it's also not ideal because I'm saying that it is expensive in comparison to the salaries, right?
It is.
That's why I'm
Yeah.
saying these fees are too high. Like if you buy a older car, you want some high horsepower car, right? But it's like few years old. You will still end up paying a lot on this because of his high power output.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you will.
So I think it should be restructured in some way.
You lived in the UK, right? So
yeah.
In there, I think that is a better comparison to also
haven't
to
had
Denmark.
Car in UK, so I don't know how are the fees for transferring the car. But what I know is the main reason I didn't even consider getting car there is the insurance, because the insurance is insane in UK.
Same in Denmark, especially for a young man.
Yeah, for young, like if you are 18 years old and you get a driving license, which is also expensive, and you want to buy, it doesn't matter if it's like a 10 years old car. It's still the insurance is based on how old are you, and how much like driver experience you have. So if you're like a new driver, you can pay 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 pounds a year for insurance, even if it's an old shit car, right? Because you are more susceptible to cause accident if you are younger, basically. But that's what it means. It gets lower the older you get and the longer you have the driving license. Yes. But for a new young driver, it's super expensive to. So for me, like I wouldn't be considered a young driver when I would be there, right? But I would be considered new in their eyes because it would be my first insurance in the UK. That's also taken in consideration, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so in UK there was also that's. But let's not get into the UK, right?
No, it was just to say that it's very like it's similar. In Denmark, it's also like if you're even for like a small city car, when you're a young guy, it's like 4,000 something Czech a month in insurance, and then you have to on top of that also pay again this like emission taxes and stuff. It's very expensive. It's super expensive to own a car, and then Slovakia, also to buy it.
In
Yeah, it's
Slovakia,
all.
at least you if you want to live like with the risk, you can get the basic insurance is pretty cheap.
Yeah, yeah,
But if you cause some accident, then it will not help you much, right? So that's why you end up paying those extras. Like I pay, the total insurance that like covers anything that would happen to the car, and that can get expensive, yes. But then if something happens, you will not think is that expensive,
yeah.
which I have experience with because something like I have experience with that my car got damaged and the
The
bill was higher than the whole year of the insurance I pay.
yeah.
But because I have the
The
insurance, I only had to pay like a percentage of it, and they paid the rest.
important to mention also this, like the 4,500 or whatever Czech a month for a small shitty car, a month in insurance is only the risk insurance. It doesn't insure the car for that price. So it's like that's like 170 euro or something a month.
Mm-hmm.
Just to own a car, a shitty old little city car, like the smallest car you can get, is about that price just for the risk insurance. It's stupidly, but this is the thing with everything in Denmark. It's very, very, very expensive country to be in.
So why people say they are happy? Because you mentioned that at the beginning.
I have actually talked about this quite recently, and I think it comes down to a few things. But I think one of the biggest differences is actually I feel like we have a different mindset to like. First of all, be a little bit more minimalistic, maybe, and we have this whole. Have you ever heard about the law of Jante?
No.
Okay, I can read it for you. But this is like to bring people as we are all on the same level. And in most other countries, people strive to like show off more, wants more. Oh, I'm not happy because I don't have enough. Blah 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 blah. In Denmark, people are more like, well, I have everything, right? Like I have food, I have a home. If I wanted a car, I could have a car. I have a phone, I have a computer, I have clothes, I have a couch. Like, what is there to complain about? Like I have it well. We have more this mindset, whereas in almost the rest of the world, they would think I don't have enough.
Yeah, but if you talked about the last thing, I would maybe ask if you know something about that. You talked about the tax on various things, but what of because you said I'm happy I have a home, but aren't the taxes for properties also?
Yeah, but the thing is, we are
in the
very
insane
heavily.
region?
Denmark is like very close to socialism, right? Very close. So it's like in many countries, the difference between like the poorest, the people who make the least amount of money from a normal job, and the people who make the most amount of money from a normal job will be wildly different. In Denmark, it's not that different. It still is a difference, but it's not even double. Like from like the lowest shit to the highest you can get with a normal like not CEO but like job. I think it's not even double.
And this could be a good segue to maybe bring out a bit a positive note before we get negative again. Is that I wanted to mention what's the interesting part of all this, because you said like because people are there is a lot of good coming from Denmark, like let's say like in a way of, let's say, companies contributing with something, right? And so I will just mention now, some of the biggest brands that you might listeners, you might be surprised to to hear that these are all Danish brands, but of course, number one, one of the most valuable brands in a toy sector in the world, Lego, it's Danish. Then you have Arla, which is if you haven't heard this name before, but they are like a milk production company. Like they do just like regular milk and the milk products, butter, cheese, whatever, from milk.
Yeah, dairy products.
Dairy, yeah, sorry, that's the right word. Dairy products. Then Novo Nordisk, which is, I guess, one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies, right, in Europe or in
in the world, I think.
In the world, yeah. Then Pandora, the jewelry house. Carlsberg beer. Then technology-wise, you have Bang and Olufsen, like the luxurious
Hi-fi. Yeah.
hi-fi like audio, speakers, headphones,
Yeah.
car audio systems, right? Then Echo, the shoe manufacturer, right? And
Yeah.
by the way, personally my most favorite shoe brand. I mostly only buy shoes from Echo.
I also like Echo a lot.
So I can recommend that for sure. And then Jabra, also another audio hi-fi technology company. They do headphones, earphones, speaker, also like in business headphones, headsets, all that stuff. And also, Royal Copenhagen Porcelain.
Yeah.
So.
And just to mention like some that.
Is there something else that maybe we should mention?
Yeah, well, I just the one like for here, like I think you maybe have heard of DSV, which I know is also in Czech Republic. It's like a truck delivery. But the biggest one, I think one of the biggest companies in the world as well, I don't think you mentioned, is Maersk. Almost anywhere you see containers, some of them will say Maersk. It's like huge cargo company for like shipping by boats.
I see now. Yeah, like a big tankers.
Yeah, it's a huge company.
Okay, so you see there. So something is working in Denmark if you have this many worldwide successful companies.
Yeah, like for sure. It's like I said also earlier, it's an amazing place to live.
Isn't it interesting? Like how many? Because like you see, we at the beginning we said like Slovakia and Denmark have like a similar sized population and landmass, but Slovakia has nothing of sorts of this many world leading companies that are like in some sectors the world leaders in something, right? Why do you think? Do you think how do you think is this connected to this whole subject? Like
when you talk specifically about companies, the thing is like if you compare it one-to-one to Slovakia, if you wanted to open a company in Slovakia, you have a big risk. Like first of all, from the day you do it, you have to pay your own health insurance, which is quite expensive. You might end up in massive debt because you started this company and so on. Like in Denmark, there's not really these risks. It's much safer to just go and try, like to say, oh, I'm going to take a year not working and try to build something, or even like I want to take art classes for a year or something.
But how is it not that risky if you have to pay this big
because you will still get paid. You get paid while you do this from the government. Like they will pay you. You still have health insurance and so on. So it's much safer. I think it's much easier to like start up something, but it's also just like for everything, like not just to strive away from companies, but also if you look at other things, like there is a few sports where Denmark is incredibly successful. We're really successful in music and arts, and so on. Like also a massive one, esports. Yeah. So like I think it's much easier for us. Like if I lived in Denmark and I was really into playing League of Legends, I could say, hey, I'm gonna stop working for a year and I'm just gonna focus on playing League of Legends and see if I can do something with this, or like live stream, or start a band.
You have the unemployment benefit is not that high, but
but you can survive.
Struggle to live.
You can survive, but yeah, you will not be rich. But this goes again a little bit into the whole thing of, I think we don't ask for as much. There's also a thing like here, for example, people go out a lot with their friends for like. I go personally now. I go a lot out to restaurants and stuff with my friends and all these things. In Denmark, never. Like
it's expensive to go out.
It's too expensive, so almost never do people just go out.
But you started a company in Denmark and you didn't like the conditions. No. Is it the problem only when you start making money?
Yeah, if you look at this, like it was fair. I didn't go bankrupt or anything because again, I had I was not working at that time. I was done working, so I got paid like every month, and I made almost no money because it was like super early, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I just saw, like, also I had some savings, and I made a little bit of money. I actually, before I left the country, I didn't even make enough that I needed to actually use my company, because you can still make money as a individual person.
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually what I did up until the point where I left. I didn't go beyond that threshold yet. But I just started thinking to myself, like, the amount, like, because my first idea, I'm in love with Southeast Asia. So my first idea was looking at, like, the expenses of living in, for example, Southeast Asia is much, like, of course, tremendously lower, like 1/10, if not less, of Denmark. And then at the same time, I could maybe get away with paying almost nothing in taxes. So then all of a sudden, to like sustain yourself and actually live, if you make all your money you have, if you make them yourself, you don't get paid by anyone, then it's really difficult in a way that you have to make so much of it, compared to also even like Slovakia, Czech Republic, Poland, Croatia, Bosnia, like whatever, like Bulgaria, even Spain, Portugal. The amount of money you have to make is much, 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 much lower than it is in Denmark. So, and for many things,
to have a successful company,
not to sustain yourself, like actually like to afford food, clothes, apartment, all this stuff, you have to make much less money because it's very expensive in Denmark. And then on top of that, you pay so much of it in tax.
But
so
I guess
it's more.
It's still but it's still somehow worth it if all these big companies, got built in Denmark.
But these are big companies, they.
But they had to
agree
start
with you.
somewhere, right? Also.
Yeah, but many of them are super old. But it still is true. Also, like there was this thing in American politics years ago with like some American politicians said everyone in Denmark just want to start a cupcake cafe or some shit like that. And then a Danish politician said, like, that's actually not true. We have fewer cupcake cafes than you per capita. But if you wanted to do that, like if you wanted to start a cupcake cafe or whatever, you would have a much bigger chance of succeeding here. It would be much easier. And that's true. Yeah. So I guess that's the point. But it's also like, if I were to start a cafe or something that's actually like a Danish thing, then my products would sell for more. But that's not what I did. Web stores. So if I live in wherever, like if I lived in North Macedonia or Denmark, I would still make the same money. It actually didn't matter. I could live in Nigeria and I would make the exact same money that I did in Denmark, but I would pay less in taxes and I would live cheaper. So it just didn't make sense to stay there.
Okay.
And then also I wanted to travel and it was illegal. So
yeah. We got to that. You mentioned South Asia, and for some reason recently I saw many like of these. I'm sure there's some kind of promotion or something, but I saw these like people making videos that I moved to Thailand because it's so easy to start a company here and you don't pay that much on taxes, and like Thailand is coming out like some sort of a good place to live in, right?
I think it is. I really like it. I mean, except for some things that I maybe shouldn't mention on the internet, but I do like it a lot.
So there might be something about that rising stars, but of the South Asia, apart from China, because that's a different Southeast Asia, it's a different world there.
Well, the only one that's like super. Well, there's of course Jakarta is very, very developed in many ways in Indonesia. But like I think Philippines is not, Cambodia is not, Vietnam is also a little bit amazing street food, but it's also a little bit behind. Whereas like Bangkok and Thailand and so on is very developed places.
I saw on the video, of course, they show Bangkok. I know. I'm sure not how Thailand looks like
Shanghai.
that. But I was like flabbergasted. I'm like, this is Bangkok. Like this looks like a super modern,
glass skyscrapers with infinity pools.
Big skyscraper. Yeah. Like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Because
Jakarta is the same.
Knew about Thailand, about like beaches and the sex business.
Yeah, a lot of prostitutes.
And great place to holiday for vacation because of the weather and food also.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
But
They
it's
have a big
also
business.
but it's getting developed, in rapid pace.
Yeah, very.
Out there. But anyway, okay. So then now let's move. Let's move on to another thing, more like how is living, how living is there. And I have the graphs that I want to ask you. Like we can discuss this. I will probably put these graphs, these images now on the screen while we talk. I will figure it out, in editing. But I send them to Philip to see. So the first graph that I stumble upon is that is a graph from all these statistics are from Eurostat, which is a official official statistics website that the data is produced by The Eurostat is part of like some European Union government.
Yes.
The organization of the European Union. So they produce these statistics on basically anything. You can, they are freely available on the Eurostat website, and you can check whatever you want there. So the first one that popped up on me, it is in Czech, but I also I will translate it here, right? But I have an English image screenshot also. But I like this graphic more, the way it looks.
Yeah.
So this one is the number of thefts or like robberies per 100,000 of 100,000 people.
This one is interesting because
I'll just finish. But per 100,000 people in countries of European Union in year 2022. Because I couldn't find data for 23 or 24 because Eurostat doesn't have data for that yet. I'm sure they will add them, but for some reason this is the latest. Like, because I wanted to use official data, right, from Europe, because how much more official you can get than European Union, right? So in this graph you can see Sweden is number one. So it's like 2,784 thefts, per 100,000 people. So these graphs are all adjusted per, like the per capita. So how they make sense because all the countries have different, amount of population.
Yeah.
So Sweden is first, Finland second, Denmark third, and Norway is also. Wait, Norway is missing on this one, I think. Is it there?
Maybe they don't have enough.
But I think I saw it on the other one.
I think they don't.
Yeah,
maybe
on the other one, you can see the third picture. Norway is there in like a sixth place.
Okay.
So what I'm just trying to point out, and then let's check another one, and then we'll go through another one is from 2021. Is proportion of women who have experienced physical, including threats or sexual violence by non-partners since the age of 15 in the EU 2021. And there you can see Finland number 1, Sweden number 2, Denmark number 3.
Yeah.
So again, the
really
Scandinavians are in the top, while Czech Republic is at the bottom of the chart.
Yeah.
And
okay.
Norway is also in sixth place in 2022, or seventh place, sixth or seventh place. You will see it on the graph. So now we talked about the various factors, which make life, let's say in Denmark specifically, more difficult or much different than to let's say our countries that we live in now, like Czech Republic or Slovakia. So what do you think is going on here?
Yeah.
Why is Scandinavia leading the charge in thefts and sexual assaults towards women?
I think that is very interesting, actually, especially the thefts in a way, because I could show you if you want, but if you go on Google Maps right now, you don't have to do it, but like I'm just going to tell you. But if you went to the walking street, right, like where all the shops are of my home city, which is a large city, but you will see as you go down, there's expensive designer clothes, shoes, watches, and so on display on the street. You can just go and grab it. They don't have alarms on them. You can just take it. But no one does, right? And also, I have seen people test this, and it's also something that I have done on accident multiple times. Like if you go into a library, like where there's many people in our libraries, people go there to study, or a cafe or something, right? And you leave your laptop. Chances are you can come back even the next day and your laptop is still there, or your phone. It will still be there. No one's gonna take it. The one thing we do steal a lot is bikes. We cannot resist the bikes. I don't know why. It's like you're drunk, you have to get home. People steal bikes. I don't know. But there's thousands and thousands and thousands on display of, again, clothes and shoes and all this stuff, just all over the streets. It's everywhere. All our stores put their stuff outside. Like, but they put stuff out on the street, dude. Outside the store, on the street, with no one watching it.
Okay.
Yeah, I can send you. Wait, let me send you a picture right now if you want.
Well, we need a picture for the listeners.
Yeah, okay, I'll send you one. This is just I just went on Google Maps here. Let me find you. I'm gonna send it in our chat. Yeah, here's one, just like a picture of it, right? You can see here everywhere. Wait, yeah, I'll send you a full view. And also another thing, we also leave our children outside. There's a famous thing that many people know of, but like children generally, when they are in the baby stroller, you can actually see one on the right. But when children sleep during the day in these baby strollers, we just leave them on the street. We put them outside on the street.
Wait, so Echo has shoes outside on the street?
Yeah.
But why?
You see, for people to take a look, you can see there's often sales. So people it's often the sales are outside, or if a store has many sales at the moment, they put a bunch of things outside. So people walk past and they can ooh, look at all these shoes. Let me go have a look, and you don't have to go into the store.
Okay, I haven't.
But you can just take all this stuff. It's not locked or anything. Even people take it off the racks. Like if let's say there's a jacket or something, people take it off the rack and they try it on and some on the street.
So now who is doing these thefts?
Yeah, that's the thing. I think in terms of I talked about this with another Danish girl I know here in Prague, which is people are often shocked, especially for a woman, right? That she says, "Oh, I feel much safer here," which I agree with completely.
In Czech Republic.
Yeah, much safer, because I think we have a lot more ghetto and organized crime. A lot more. And it's actually crazy story. But last time I went to Denmark, we literally got robbed at gunpoint. Gun to our head, and they took the car.
I haven't heard it before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that stuff like that can happen, and
they stole your car?
My friend's car.
Okay.
We went to sell it actually to some guy, and they blocked us in. Came out with gun, pointed at us and wanted to steal the car. And things like this does happen. And I myself. Yeah. We actually found them. The people who they forced them to run, and I ran after them because I'm an idiot. And police came with dogs and drones and everything immediately. So it was sorted kind of quickly, right? But it's just to say things like this do happen in Denmark, and you actually have places where if you walk there, it can be kind of dangerous.
So and this is, but I for in my eyes as an outsider, looking at these graphs, and I see especially Sweden is top of the chart.
Yeah, Sweden is crazy.
And what happened in Sweden in past 5-6 years was the immigration crisis, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it was. So they have the same thing.
Yes, at Sweden, and Denmark was similar in Sweden, Sweden, and how they opened the doors for everyone.
Yeah,
at some point.
But not. We don't have it as bad. Just to be clear, Sweden is quite intense. It's quite insane. I heard somewhere, I don't know if it's true, but Sweden has, Stockholm alone has a number per capita more times of gun violence than London.
And this is quite this is a bit alarming, because I haven't checked all the numbers in all the years, let's say in Sweden or Denmark, but I'm sure it was not the same before the the huge immigration crisis?
It has actually been for a long time because the thing is, like, if you go back to like the 70s or something, it was a really, 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 really safe country, stupidly safe country. But then we had some gangs form of like Danish gangs that are like, do you know Hell's Angels in America? Like the bikers type. Yeah, we had a lot of this stuff, like biker type gangs. I actually am from a town or like province town that was like a hotspot for this in my childhood because it was right in the center of two large cities. So like we had cars,
But I'm
car
sure
bombings.
Sweden was not the top of these charts like all the time.
No.
Like
But I'm
90s,
talking like
let's say.
yeah, but I'm talking in like 90s and early 2000s. Even then, in my little hometown, even we had like cars.
Well, I'm sure. Well,
bombed.
of course, the violence is the deaths and is always there. But for example, but Sweden, they just let too many people in from too many different cultures, like especially
and don't really integrate
from
them.
the Middle East, like Syria, and I guess there's other like war-torn countries from there. Maybe also Africa.
Yeah.
And most of these people are from different religion, which is Islam, right? So I've been following this loosely, not like on a daily basis, but there is a problem with the integration of for these people who are who the problem is that they are not willing. I'm not saying like everyone is bad, but it looks like most of the people who came under like this flying from war reasons, right? They came here and they don't want to integrate in the culture, right? And it is alarming that these numbers are so high, and also the sexual assault on women. Because I would not imagine like regular sweets to be at least to be that.
Well, we can get to that, but I think I have a good explanation for the sexual violence thing. But in regards to like what we did, and it's like it's not a small amount of foreigners that were since the 80s have come to our countries. It's a very large amount. A little bit less in Norway, but for Sweden and Denmark, it's a super large amount of people. And what we did is that we built a bunch of these, like you know them very well from like Soviet times, but like block style buildings.
Yeah.
Like blocks. We built a shit ton of those in small neighborhoods. We made small neighborhoods of those, and we put them all there.
Council houses, like in UK.
Basic, yeah. I guess, or like brutalism blocks or whatever you want to call it. But we put them all there, and then over time, let's say I actually lived right next to one of the biggest ones, Gellerup. But like the population there since the 80s have been very, very largely foreign, let's say, right? And they speak a different language and all this stuff. So if you go there now, like some people that have lived in Denmark for 40 years do not speak Danish. They have bazaars and like, it's like a parallel universe, if that makes sense. A parallel society. But they have very little opportunity. Like in Gellerup, there's one school, but they're all foreign, and they have this because it's gone this way now that it's like they're more thug boys, right? Like they're very thug and like so they have a bad influence on each other, I think, because of the society that they live in. They have a bad influence on each other, so a lot of them become like kind of nasty in behavior and do a lot more crime. And I'm not like, it's not nothing about the people per se. I think it's how they grow up in this ghetto environment.
But it must be affected by their religious beliefs in some way.
No, why? I think it's grounded in, if you take a bunch, like I just mentioned before, like our government welfare is not that big. It's a very small amount of money. So also these people have a lot more children. So if entire families are put into this blocks and they all live together with their families and their friends, and none of them really, few of them have jobs. So they're all very poor. And that means that the next generation of their kids do not want to be poor, but they don't have maybe good education. Some of them, like many of them, have really good education, but many, especially from the boys, they know from their friends who are kind of thugs and blah blah blah. So what do? They do illegal things, right? To find other means of making money. I think
but what about the the sexual violence against women?
Scandinavia.
Why is it on the rise that much? Right.
I think
that is, that
I
must
actually
be.
would.
Wait, sorry, but I
Yeah.
just want to say that for me, this must be affected by this the certain type of groups of immigrants, coming from the countries with different culture, different religion, and different way of seeing a woman.
The only, I mean, yes and no. So I'll explain this. I think there's three main factors to this. One being, I would like to say, first of all, the only women in like my lifetime that I have heard of being raped in Denmark have actually been kidnapped by Danish people, and it's usually children or like very young girls. So that happens sometimes, that like some 16-year-old girls go missing and they find her in a lake years later, and she was raped to pieces. But that's usually a Danish man who does that. Like statistically speaking, it's definitely usually a Danish man. But I have also never really heard or known of any, let's say, wife or anything like that got beaten at home. Never. So that's not a thing in our society. But then maybe in these ghetto societies.
In your society.
Yeah, so I would say maybe in these ghetto societies, maybe it is. I'm not sure. Like, I cannot say. I actually have no idea. So I will not say it is or it's not.
Well, we are reading things from the graphs, right? So.
Yeah, but I would say one big difference. If you look at the graph, it says sexual harassment, blah, all these things, right? And I will say, on the other hand, I know almost no girl ever who didn't have a slap on the ass or some sexual comment made towards her, either in school or in a club. And I think because our society is also, let's say, more woke, we can say that, right? It's more woke. So I think they are more likely to say yes on this list. Like some guy when I was 16 once commented on my boobs or something. Like this 15-year-old boy in school, or like some really drunk guy in a club once, like hit my ass or made some kind of sexual comment. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of the graph is that, whereas I think in other countries, many girls would not really consider that as a severe, like something you say yes to on the same survey as rape, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's a guess. It's a complete speculation. But if I were to guess, I think a large proportion of it is that.
Yeah, but you can see the rape is still higher in like Finland, Sweden, and Denmark than in other countries.
Yeah, I don't really have a logical explanation for that. I'm just saying, especially the sexual harassment.
Of course, we are not experts. We're only contemplating. But from my point of view, this must be affected by the really, let's say, leftist, a way of politics, especially in Sweden, ever since the immigration crisis. Like, we welcome everyone. We will give everyone, the welfare benefits, and that's there's also the reason why people even traveled across half of the world, from Middle East or Africa, because they researched it, and they will get good welfare benefits in Sweden for being unemployed and being refugees, and then also like having family and getting welfare benefits for the kids, right? Mm-hmm. So in Sweden they have the gang violence is definitely getting out of hand, like in cities like Malmo, the ghettos are really dangerous places.
They are,
also dangerous places the government now is not even is recommending you to not visit these places, right? Even out of curiosity, these ghettos. But
the thing is
this solving the problem to just say people don't go to these parts, right?
Then they'll go somewhere else.
There's not really a solution.
No, but I will agree, like this has caused a lot of problems, and you can also see it's actually led to some intense situations. But like first in my childhood, I had a lot of good friends who were like from Muslim families, but I am not from a ghetto. I am from a province town where most people live in houses. And let's say, for the ghetto that I was just talking about, they have one small shitty school we had 2 really nice schools plus special needs schools and stuff in a small town, like a really nice place to live to bring up a family and so on. And they behave super nice, right? No problem. So they are completely different from like the ghetto boy kind of personality.
Well, of course, your environment affects
Tremendously.
But
But you can see it
what are they supposed to do? Yeah, of course, at the beginning they just put them all in the same place.
Yeah, but that's a mistake, I think.
And then some of them go to like but they go to regular schools, and
yeah, they do.
But
I
then
don't
they
think
go
it's
back
only
to their
school.
own environment, and
It's,
then that's how they project what they see at home, or in their ghettos or
friends,
where
I
they
think.
live.
Like, yeah,
they
you look at
project
your
it back
bros.
in the school.
Yeah, you look at your bros and your older brothers and things like this. That's why I think that's where it comes from. But
so
I don't know. Like, this has been a problem since the 80s, and I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know what to say. It's been there since the 80s, but you can see both in Sweden and in Denmark, like how politics and also honestly, from people's point of view, like we have honestly a lot of racism towards this because of, like, I would not consider myself to be against anyone at all, but like you would be an idiot to not say that since 80s until now it's caused some problems, right? It has caused a lot of money and a lot of crime.
It's very calculated from these refugees. I'm not saying all the refugees are fake. I'm definitely not,
No, definitely not.
But you can, like, we can compare even now with because we have a refugee situation here in like Czech Republic and Slovakia with a lot of Ukrainian people, running from coming and working, and we don't see any crime. Haven't seen because I've been following this. I haven't seen any rise in crime or like hate crime or sexual crimes.
No.
In here. Since
the thing is,
since the Ukrainian refugees came here, because why? Because they came from a similar culture, and they
they're neighboring
better.
Countries almost. Like you're from the same part of the world.
But why then these thousands and hundreds of thousands of immigrants from, let's say, Middle East, why they went to Sweden and to Germany? Why they didn't come to Slovakia or Czech Republic, right? Because it's been calculated that by them we will get more money, right, in those Western countries.
But also with Western countries are very, like, I will call it woke or leftist or whatever you want to call it. But
if you're running from the war, you just want to get to a place where there is no war, right? Why would you go all the way? You're not even stop.
But the thing is, do you think Slovakia is acceptant of it? Because I remember also when there was the Syria crisis, right? I think Slovakia officially said, because you cannot refuse to take refugees, but I think Slovakia said that we will take everyone who is like good Christians, which is none
Slovakia
of them.
was not not receptive to the refugees back.
Yeah, and you can see Poland now.
Yes, that's true. But it's also true. What is also true that Slovakia has been historically a transit country where, I've talked to someone who was working in one of these refugee or like asylum seeker camps in Slovakia. Yeah, the establishments. So I'm not making this up out of thin air. And I heard, like, they've been talking to them and to these various refugees from from other parts of the world, not Europe, and they've been like, yeah, they don't want to stay here. They're not actually asking for asylum or anything in Slovakia. They just got caught, let's say, because a lot of them went illegally, right? They got caught in Slovakia. And they just they said, like, they want to go to Germany or they don't want to go to Sweden. They don't want to be here because there is not enough. The welfare system is not as rich here, right?
Yeah.
So
I have been to many countries where I have met people in person that wanted to go to Denmark, and I've heard multiple times from, especially in like Middle Eastern countries, where people actually say that they have family living in Denmark. So, and this is also, again, people have been coming since the 80s. So actually, like, from the, let's say, the hotspots of immigration to Denmark and Sweden, they like actually quite a few of them know people there in Germany. Like you can also use Germany as a good example, right?
Germany is also not doing well, you know.
Yeah, no, they're not. But like what I'm saying is, there's many people still in, let's say, African, like Somali, like African countries, Middle Eastern countries, that are looking to immigrate to, for example, Germany, and actually a large amount, like quite a proportion of them, will either know someone in person or be family in someone who already lives there and now has a completely different life, right? Or they know someone who in their home country that have family that moved to Germany. Do you get what I mean? So they hear of this.
Yeah, because it's been going
Yeah.
on, of course, for
Yeah,
years
yeah.
now.
Yeah.
You
For
know, I am
40
also
years.
I am also an immigrant. Yeah, because I'm not from Czech Republic. Yeah, or when I lived in UK, I was, you know, I was an immigrant there. So I am not against immigration. When you go and you know, search for your life's fortune in the different country, and maybe you choose a country which you think like it will give you more opportunities.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm not against immigration, right? But there has to be some kind of sense to it. You cannot just get you know, accept everyone to come, because
No, like I agree with that.
then you will see, then you see what's happening, right,
I
in
agree with that.
these
As much.
countries that has been too open for everyone. And you know, and with those like 100,000 people, of course some of them will want to come and work and practice their religious beliefs in peace, right?
Yeah.
And integrate. But then there'll be a large portion of people who will just cause distraction. Of course there are
Yeah.
people doing bad stuff here, like Czech people, Slovak people, like, let's say, like the natives. Of course they are doing crime.
Yeah.
You know, look at our government. Yeah, that's just a
Yeah.
bunch of
Bandits.
bandits, gangsters. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So I am not under any illusion, right? But it has definitely shifted the situation in Europe, like, because
Yeah.
you haven't
It
had
has.
these many even terrorist attacks. Like how many these attacks happened, like just this year in Germany, in Belgium, in France, right? Uh, like gun violence and killing people on the street. Some extremists. I'm not saying everyone is extremist, but it just comes with with that, right? If you
We have a hotspot in Denmark that is been very into this. But like I will say, first of all, as much as I wish the best for everyone, and I'm not against any group of people, to be honest. But at the same time, especially after moving away and being like, when you are not home for a long time, you get kind of like nostalgic for your country. So like I appreciate Denmark much more now than I used to, and I do. At the end of the day, I want the best thing for my country.
mm-hmm.
So, and it's not like I'm uber nationalistic or anything, but I still want Denmark to be the best Denmark it can possibly be. And sometimes, like, that maybe does mean putting yourself before others, which I don't think we have done.
Yeah, but that's why you see this wave.
Yeah, I know.
But I'll just stop it here. I'll just stop. Wait for a second. I will just say that it's not. Don't take me that I'm some kind of extremist, right? Like I want to put people in cages or something,
No,
and not
like I
allow
don't
them
think so.
to live in the country. No, I am just pointing out at the issues that were caused by the politics of these
Yeah,
certain countries, right? And that's why you see this wave, which is also not the correct answer to it.
yeah,
But it is what it is right now. That like the, let's say, the extreme right is on the rise. Like extreme right of, like, I mean, right wing politics, right?
yeah,
Is on the rise across the Europe and across the world. Like you see the US, yeah. But in Italy, the prime minister, like, I am not an expert again on Italian politics, but most of Italians I spoke to, they call her that she is a new fascist leader. The
yeah,
new prime minister.
yeah. I've heard of that. Yeah,
And there are other, like Hungary also. The prime
yeah,
minister there is super right, right, and Slovakia too. our prime minister. Like all the things that he's still talking about are really like nationalistic. Right. Even though he is not, his political party is not supposed to be right wing, but the way they operate is that way, right? But there is nothing wrong with the right wing, right? Because I, like, with my political beliefs, I would find more things that I, like, how you say, not accept, but if you like agree with something, I find more things that I agree with the with the right style, the right wing style politics than on the left, definitely. But I would
putting your country as a high priority. Like
but
I
at the
also
same
agree.
time, I am not supporting these extremes. We're just going from one extreme to another extreme. There is some kind of sense in the middle, right? Some kind of middle way, taking what's good on the right and what's good on the left. And making some kind of new movement.
Yeah,
But
I
we're
think
always
also
coming back to the same issues, like the nationalistic propaganda, racism, and all this is always coming back in cycles, and because people are unhappy.
Yeah. Have you, like, I know you've heard this because obviously you know quite a few of us Nordic people. Obviously. Yeah. So you have heard us and probably other people say this thing called Nordic privilege.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, we say that sometimes. It's a joke. Like, and it's actually, I think this is kind of a point of where it started, how, to be honest, like when we go, this is something I felt very much firsthand in a lot of the world, is I get kind of special treatment because people are like, oh, Denmark, oh, like so nice, like you must be so educated and rich and
happy.
Oh yeah, and happy and right, like so we get very special treatment. But the thing is, we also think that
and
about
people
ourselves.
know people. It's more likely that people will know that where is your country on the map.
Yeah, but the thing is, like we think this about ourselves as well. Like we also think that the Nordics are like amazing, right? We do kind of think that, except for the weather and some things, but like overall, we do think that it's great countries, and it probably is great countries. But I think that has led to a thing since the 80s that's like, hey, we're doing so well here. It's kind of our duty to help things that are in need. And also let's talk about climate, we can afford to be some of the greenest countries in the world. So actually to lead by example and to try to make a difference in that way, I think it's very much something we do.
That's why everyone is riding bicycles in Denmark.
Yeah, because of how flat it is.
And everyone is driving Teslas in Norway.
Yeah, but I think it's also the bike thing is also due to, again, it's really, really flat. There's not a hill inside, right? It's super flat.
Yeah.
And cars are really expensive and public transport is really expensive. So I think that's also part of the reason. But just to say about the last thing I have to say about the immigration thing, but I'm sure you have heard of a place called Christiania in Copenhagen. You've almost certainly heard of Christiania. It's to people who don't know, but Christiania is a free town. Basically, like it's often portrayed as a place with no laws, like a lawless city in the middle of Copenhagen, which is not entirely true. It's kind of a parallel society where they decided to make their own laws. But it's abandoned military land. I think it's called barracks in English, like military barracks that
so
hippies
in
took over.
Terms, it's like a neighborhood in the Copenhagen.
Yeah, it's huge, dude. It's quite big, actually.
Yeah, okay.
But it used to be a military base. And then in the 70s, when the military base got abandoned, a bunch of hippies moved in there. And these hippies were like, we're going to make a new state where we all like live together. We can build our own houses and this and that. And they decided back then, first of all, to make their own tax system or like a common fund, but also to legalize drugs was one thing they did. So they legalized drugs. It lasted a really long time, really short time, before they banned hard drugs. So they banned really quickly like hard drugs like heroin, cocaine, and all this really bad stuff. But basically, even up until recently, because now the police has kind of shut it down, but up until very recently, in this place, cannabis has been allowed and openly sold on the street. We even have on Google Maps, you can go to Christiania and find a street called Pusher Street, which is where cannabis has been sold since the 70s.
But it's all been changed now, right?
Yeah, that's my point. That's like about this like ghetto thing. That's like for a long time, it used to be like these kind of hippie people that stood in these stands. They made like wooden stands and they sold joints to people, right? And that's how it's always been. But then there was a shift when all this ghetto extreme organized crime started happening. They actually like took over Christiania. And I think that's really the point where the police tried to shut it down. And it's the thing you can see. It is shut down now. I don't know if it's put back up, but at least last time I was in Denmark, the stands are actually gone. There's no more open weed market which is crazy. It feels insane to be there, and it's gone.
But Christina still exists.
Yeah, Christiania still exists, but there's no open weed market anymore. But for many years now, do you know what has been a change from previously? Again, according to this, is like nowadays, or even for many years at this point, when you go there, it's no longer hippies who stand and sell you a joint. It's guys, like clearly foreign guys that are part of gangs in masks and gloves, and like thug, gangster-looking people that stand.
So it became a dangerous place to go to.
No, it's not dangerous. Well, the thing is, now and then the police will raid it. And there has been a lot of shooting episodes in Christiania because the police will raid and shut down these stands. And I guess people, the gang people, they fight back. And so people have gotten shot and things like this quite a lot. But like normally, it's not dangerous at all. And at the end of the day, like if someone is, let's say, a cannabis illegal dealing person, right? At the end of the day, they just want to make money. So I think all this stuff is actually rarely dangerous, to be honest. I don't really know, but it would be my guess because there's no good in killing your customers. So that would just be my guess. But no, I don't find it dangerous, but it's just to point out this massive shift, that you could see from like guys in dreadlocks and baggy pants back in the day that used to be running these shops to like actual gangsters. That's a big shift that has been very visible.
So they ruined the idea of Christiania, of like a free town where everyone is welcoming and kind.
Only the money aspect, like everything that you can make money off, because obviously like the cannabis market of Christiania is a massive industry. It's huge. Before now it's obviously shut down, but like historically for 40 years or something, it's massive, dude. Like really, really big. Many, I think billions of crowns go through there every year. So that's why the gangs have taken it over, right? It's a massive industry. It's just for the money. But there's still hippies who live there.
Yeah, but they like don't pay taxes there.
If you work, if you have a normal job outside of Christiania, I guess you do pay taxes. But to live on Christiania, you have to pay a Christiania-specific tax of, I think, 800 Danish crowns a month or something, which goes to the Christiania Common Fund, which actually they have been trying to buy the land of the government. But I think it also pays for things like having electricity running and things. I don't know. I don't really know. And renovating. But but yeah, I think if you work like a normal Danish job, but live there, you still, of course, pay Danish tax. And if you're on social benefits or something, you probably still are taxed. I don't really know. I never lived there. Yeah, I just wanted to point out this like gangster takeover, which has definitely happened. It's all, for many years, it's all gangsters that stand there.
So what would you say to round up the subject? Like in your eyes, what would be the way forward for Denmark? Maybe because maybe I have to get a Swede here next
I'm gonna sound strict, but I already have my answer. I've like no. Actually, it's complicated because like what I would say is from the beginning, what should have been the thing is like there should have actually been requirements, which there is in many other countries. Like if you wanted to move as a non-EU citizen, right? You want to move to Czech Republic. Also, we talked about Thailand earlier, same thing. But yeah, so like I'll actually use Thailand as a good example because none of us are from the region, and this applies to no matter where you're from in the world. If you want to move to Thailand, the government is going to test your Thai. So they're actually going to see that you're trying to integrate on test, and you're going to have to support yourself. If you become a leech on society, you cannot get citizenship. If you don't learn and integrate, you cannot get citizenship. You cannot get residency. And it's the same thing in Czech Republic, for example. If you are not an EU citizen like me or you, then like you have some requirements to fill out to be allowed to stay here, basically. And I think Denmark has been way too lax. But Denmark has been way too relaxed on this with refugees, where there has not really been these. Like I know this is not even like a bad thing to say, because it's definitely a big fact, but there's a large amount of people who have lived in Denmark for 40 years and have never had a job and doesn't speak more than 5 words of Danish. Like, I don't really think that should be allowed. But then the complex thing is you can't just throw them out, because this has been happening since against the 80s.
It's too late now.
So they're the thing. Yeah, they're born there. Like most of them are born there. Most of them are born in Denmark. They have never been anywhere else than Denmark. They are Danish, essentially, right? You can't just say, "Oh, go back to where you're from," because they are like, "Well, I'm born here. I'm Danish." But the problems from this long time of misintegration is still causing issues, right? And probably more issues than ever before. Also because when you have like a gang organized crime thing that's rising, look at the mafia and the Italian mob in America, right? Like, it's not something that's like when the Italians moved there, it was not at the worst. It took years for them to build up this empire, and then it was really bad. And I think that's kind of what you see, especially in Sweden now, that like they have some big gangs. Like, I think one of them is called LTF, which was also in Denmark for some time, but they are now really big, and they have a lot of power and money and a lot of business. You know, they have like probably hundreds of thousands of loyal customers to sell drugs. Yeah, but also like customers for their services, like drugs and all these things. You know, so they are like a business, and a really well-funded business, I think. But that's not the case when a bunch of refugees move to your country. They don't just come and are all criminals with massive power and money.
Yeah, but if it already exists, then it's easier for them to just join their.
Yeah, exactly, and it grows right over time. Same as a company. Like Lego didn't start out being a massive toy giant as it is today. They started out making some wooden horses that didn't sell, and then eventually it builds.
Mm-hmm.
And an Echo, or whatever you want to use as an example, right? Like Spotify didn't start out, it's Swedish, but it didn't start out having every song in the world and being massive. They had to build to where they are. Because, and I think that's the same thing.
Been too lenient, too easy on the rules of if you want to live in these countries and
specifically for refugees, I think.
You know, on one hand, it is. I see the logic behind it. Like, you know, we are doing better, you know, so we're gonna welcome anyone who wants to like find better life here. But then you know, it will caught up, right? I know this is a bit out of the left field, but I was listening to this podcast where they talked about the American election, right? And they, you know, in California, it's illegal to ask for your ID when you go for a vote.
Yeah.
So you don't have to show your ID card or any kind of identification when you go to vote for the president. How did we even get there, right? How did they even get to this?
I'm actually thinking, I don't think I did that in Denmark either.
Is it like in Denmark too?
I think so. Like,
how do they know who is casting the vote then?
You get like a. Fuck, wait, no, maybe I'm speaking out of my ass, but like when I went to vote in Denmark, I don't remember showing anyone my ID. But we actually don't have ID cards in the same sense. So
yeah, well, but you have some kind of identification.
Yeah, but I actually don't know if you have to show that.
In Slovakia, it's like, of course, you have to have your ID. If you
one thing that was
vote,
shocking
and they write down
to
your
me.
Name and your number, you know, the.
I think I did that myself, and also we have like, you know, you have a personal identification number. I'm pretty sure you write that on your voting thing. Oh no, baby, I don't fucking. I have no idea.
Okay,
look this up because I don't know.
Well, there was an example of like of a rule that doesn't make sense because, but it was, I guess, created to like through this Vogue maybe or whatever is that this like allowing not like not putting restrictions on anything and leaving everything more free and open and let people do whatever they want and we are at the end of the day we are as a human race, let's say, no matter where you're from, because we're all part of the same race, right? That's why the so well no I want to say so but where do we come from as people? We are also
Africa.
part of like yes that but we are also part of a of this ecosystem. We are like the word is is alluring. I have it on my tongue, but let's like okay I'll use some different word. Like we are also animals, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we call ourselves we are human, we are smart, we have brains, and we control the world over the other species. But we are also part of this. Like we are also some kind of animal species, right?
Yeah.
We just are more smart, let's say, and which leads me with what I want to say is that we get to the point, where we have all these things, governments and laws and all that, and we need that, right? We need some kind of laws and regulations.
Yes.
We cannot really exist without it because then everyone will just do whatever they want, and
Yeah, you can see
then we
even
will
with laws and
just go back
consequences.
to
Yeah.
being like uncivilized.
Yeah.
That's the part of being civilized.
You can
The
see that even
follow
with laws and hard consequences that people still do
how
nasty
hard is
illegal stuff. Yeah.
how hard is to even get people to. You still have jails, prisons full of
Yeah.
people murdering, raping,
Yeah.
doing fraudulent activities, whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just. But we need it. But we still, it will be even worse. We need to have some rules and regulations put in place for how we exist and operate. Right? It cannot be also. It's also not good when it's too extreme, like the bureaucracy, like in Slovakia, the bureaucracy is insane. How many
It is.
papers you need for
Yeah.
everything?
Yeah. It's ridiculous. It's insane.
There's so. But
There's also
I
like
understand that there is a point of this, yes, but it has to be. It just has to make sense. It's the same way, like I was talking about the political beliefs. Yeah, right. Let's say most of the people are either right or left, right? But people are always are also usually putting themselves in the not on the whole spectrum but like to the total left or to the total right, but it's also that also doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
There has to
No, it
be
does not.
more there should be more common sense in politics basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they probably should.
But we also at the same time we cannot have everything we want. That we have to have some limitations on we put ourselves on ourselves, right? Because in order to have some kind of civilized society to live in, and that's why, for example, like Czech Republic, for me, I just love it here, right? I don't know if it's maybe it's not like if you look at it financially, like how the salaries are and how much thing costs, like it's not the best country in the world, but it's just something but overall I just cannot fault it for much here.
Yeah, I'm also shocked of how much I actually like being here. When I moved to Prague recently, I did not think that I was gonna like stay here, but I really like it a lot. Like and like I know you say salaries and all these things, but at the same time, as someone who's from Denmark and like per se, I'm definitely the poorest I've ever been in my life at the moment. But I feel more wealthy than I did in Denmark. Maybe not like the last very short term, but like generally speaking, in the time I've been in Czech Republic, I feel more wealthy than I did in Denmark because prices. So like I can actually break this down for you really, really simply if you want. So let's say an average salary in Denmark is going to sound really high. Per month, it's 30,000 Danish crowns. Let's see, 30,000 DKK to Czech crowns. So you understand that's 101,000 Czech crowns, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then consider our tax of that, which is going to be like close to 40%. So you will end up with just shy of 60,000. But everything is really expensive, dude. Like really, really insanely expensive. So here, even though you make it like a little bit less money, but you're actually talking not that much less. Like many people here, maybe they earn like 3/4 or 2/3 of a Danish person after taxes.
Mm-hmm.
But going out to a restaurant is a tenth of the price. And going out for a beer or even buying groceries is so much cheaper that I feel much less limited. Like I think in Denmark it's more if I would hang out with my friends, I would never just suggest like, hey, like let's go out for dinner and then get cocktails or something. Like fuck no, never. That's not possible. But here it actually is. So that's like it's not as bad as it seems. It's really not. But it's true in the sense that for someone in Denmark, it's probably cheaper in comparison to buy a new iPhone. Because it's a smaller part of your wage to buy an iPhone or to buy like a really expensive pair of shoes. It's cheaper.
Yeah.
But like normal, I'd say I always call it like there's a materialistic side, whereas like Nordic people, especially Norwegians, but also Danish people, and German people, and Dutch people, we are very rich materialistically.
Mm-hmm.
So we can buy a lot of stuff. Whereas like Czech people can maybe not buy as much stuff, but they're richer on life. They're richer on experiences, on maybe not traveling, because the plane tickets is another good example of this. Like if I wanted to fly to Thailand, it's relatively cheaper as a Danish person to do that the one time a year or whatever. Yeah, because it's a smaller part of your wage. It's very expensive. The plane ticket is a lot for a Czech person, and the hotel and so on. But still, like I have still been traveling while living here, no problem. Quite a lot, actually. No problem.
But if you want to like just live here, you work for some salary, full-time job.
Yeah.
And you can like you said, you can go out for the beer. You can.
Yeah, you can
buy stuff, buy food, groceries for home, and enjoy.
And also, just
the standard life is maybe that's and that's good enough.
And like just to make it clear, in case some Danish person calls me out on this, like Danish people do go out for beer. We go out more rarely, and then we drink a fucking shitloads. Like we drink 100 shots and pass out on the street type stuff. But we don't do it very frequently because it's very expensive. And especially a restaurant is more something like a family gathering. We have like Christmas lunches leading up to Christmas. This is a good example where people might go out to a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
But and I think maybe people in Copenhagen go a little bit more frequently to restaurants. But Czech people do it a lot. Like it's not because it sounds like I'm saying, oh, Danish people never do that. No, we do that. But I know many people in Czech Republic who eat out almost every day. Like that is not possible in Denmark. No matter what, that would be insane.
And if you manage at one point to get higher than average salary,
yeah, you have it super nice
in the Czech Republic, then you just live like you can live like a king,
Yeah, you can. And the thing is, actually, there's also, which is very proportional. Like I can go into some numbers of this.
Sorry, just maybe to correct. Like what I want to say is like, in comparison to other these like Western countries or like Denmark in this case, you don't need that much to achieve that much to already enjoy the life to its fullest.
Yeah, but we have also a different mindset. We have a different mindset. But it's like one thing that is in Denmark. Like I think Denmark, as a normal person who works, is probably one of the best countries to live in, and it probably is.
Denmark.
It is really good. Yeah, it is. Like it is. The thing is, one of the reasons why. But I always said, and it's the same thing for Finland, because if you ask, I actually I use it as a funny thing sometimes, but Finnish people always make fun of them being the happiest country in the world, right?
Yeah.
I once asked a Finnish person this question, like, why do you think that is? And also for me as a Danish person, I don't think that most Danish people, we consider ourselves content, not like happy, right? And the Finnish guy, sorry, he said like, well, that is because all the depressed people have already killed themselves.
Yeah.
But it's more, I don't think it comes down to that. It's all the other things, like just a few examples, right? The big thing that you might also have heard of, but like for Denmark, hygge is it's a word that cannot be translated, blah, 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 but it actually
Yeah, I
means
heard it before, yeah.
Yeah, it's more like cozy, but it's more like if you try to describe what is hygge, and that's a really big part of our identity, I think. And it's actually like at the end of the day, it means joy in small things, is how I have been managed to translate it, right? So hygge can be watching a movie on a Friday evening. It can be reading a book on a rainy day. It can be playing.
Moment of inner peace.
Yeah, it's like joy in small things, like just sitting in the rain and reading a book, listening to the rain. It can be like talking to you right now is kind of hygge, like just talking to my friend. Yeah, it's talking to my friend. There's nothing special, we didn't need anything extraordinary for this moment. We just jumped onto Discord and we're talking and hanging out, right? This is enough. This is like happiness in a way. And then also, I'm gonna read you the law of Jente, which is gonna sound a little bit extreme, but this is also something that we are raised according to this, but not like strictly point for point. It's more like it's part of our behavioral pattern. So there's 10 laws similar to amendments of Christianity, right? We have law of Jente. So 1, you are not to think that you are anything special. 2, you are not to think that you are as good as we are. 3, you are not to think that you are smarter than we are. 4, you are not to imagine yourself better than we are. 5, you are not to think that you know more than we do. 6, you are not to think that you are more important than we are. 7, you are not to think that you are good at anything. 8, you are not to laugh at us. 9, you are not to think that anyone cares about you. 10, you are not to think that you can teach us anything. And us is everyone. So that's like, that we are, then I, then us. This is everyone. This is the person next to you. In this case, this is you to me. Like, it's like I cannot assume that I can teach.
How do you write it?
The law of Jente. Jante. We call it Janteloven in Danish.
Oh, that's like a Danish word, the Janta.
Is a name of a guy who made it.
Okay.
And it's also in other Scandinavian countries, but it's very it's a Danish author, I think, who made this originally, and it's very clear in Danish society. But the thing is, like, it's not as strict as it sounds, because some of them are really bad. Like, you are not to think that you're good at anything sounds really like, let's say it's the opposite of being American. I can say it like that, right? Yeah. But it's actually like just a humbling way of how you speak to people. It's also like, it's like when I talk to you now, I'm not to think that I'm smarter than you are. I'm not to think that I'm better than you are, even if I'm the prime minister and you are homeless, right? I'm not necessarily more important than you are. You might be smarter than I am. Sure, you're in a worse situation if you were homeless, but like someone like, if that makes sense, that's the point. So it's very humble, right? And I also think that most Danish people, I like to believe that if you actually manage to become like a really rich Danish person, you are more likely to not show off. Like, you are more likely, I think for us, it's more attractive to have like a M series BMW than a Ferrari. Because Ferrari screams, look at me, but the M series BMW is just a fucking nice car. It's like, you kind of have to know what it is to know the value and the meaning of it, if that makes sense. So other people, it's just BMW. So that's more attractive to us, because you get the nice thing, but you're not showing off. And you can also see this in our design. Like, Nordic Scandinavian design is very expensive and it's very sought after, but it's not very flashy. It's very minimalistic and very simple. It's like, you shouldn't necessarily be able to look at it and be like, wow, that's a fucking expensive lamp. No, it should just look like a lamp, but it's nice, like, kind of thing. I think that's very embedded. Yeah. Which also leads to this like high happiness index, I think, to be so humble and not have this strife. Like, if you compare it to Middle Eastern or like even like Balkan culture is a good example. They're the complete opposite, They're I have nothing, but look at what I have. Like Denmark is not really like that. I think that's at least my opinion.
Slovakia is also not like that.
No, they're not really. But one thing that is also in Czech Republic, which leads you to be the opposite of this, is like it's very pessimistic. Like there's a lot of post-Soviet countries are very pessimistic, very negative. Like people don't smile so much.
Yeah.
The only thing people asked me when I was, especially in Slovakia, but also in Poland and in Ukraine, I had the same thing. Is like, why would you come here? Like, this is shit. It's shit here. Like, why would you be here?
Yeah.
And things like that. And also, like, if a Czech person runs out of milk, just to say, like, my experience of what I would generalize them at, they're not like, oh, I'm out of milk, I'm gonna go to the shop and buy another one. They're like, fuck, now I'm out of fucking milk. Now I have to go to the fucking store.
Yeah.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like you always look at, not you, but like they look at the world in like the worst way possible. Yeah. So I think that
also
makes
them unique, as a culture too. In a way.
Yeah. I mean, I'm used to it. I've been here for a while, and I lived with a Slovak woman for a long time, which I would say is a little bit the same. And like I'm kind of used to it, but it is definitely, and you have to just take it with a grain of salt, honestly, that it's not necessarily as bad as everything sounds. And also for me, I was actually taught very early when I first came to Eastern Europe, because I have this Danish thing of smiling at people, right? If someone looks at me, I smile back at them. And we even have like billboards in Denmark that says, smile, it's contagious. Like if you smile at someone, they'll usually smile, and their day will be a bit nicer. But here, it's a weird thing to do. Like, don't go around and fucking smile at everyone. People are gonna think you're a freak, and girls think you hit on them. And
like this is my mom, who is from older generation,
yeah.
And when I remember when I was smaller, she always said this. Like, I know it's kind of joke, but it is rooted in something. She always said to me, like, don't smile for no reason.
Yeah.
Because people will think you escaped a mental asylum or something.
Yeah, I've heard this before.
Like,
people say that
logic,
to me.
like, you're just smiling. You have a smirk on your face for no reason. Then you probably are a psycho
retard.
or some kind of retard. Retard. Yeah.
I have heard this before. I have heard that it's the exact same thing said by people here. And also another thing people commonly say is that, well, there's nothing to be happy about and there's nothing to smile about. Where I think that's extremely different from us, like from a Nordic perspective. Extremely different. Like if you look at someone and they look at you, you smile at them. Like, smile, it's contagious. Why would you not do that gesture of like spreading a positive atmosphere? Right. If everyone goes around and looks like they're depressed, then the atmosphere in the air is gonna be depressed.
There is a deep-rooted jealousy, especially I can speak for because of Slovaks, right? Yeah. Especially from the part of where I'm from, the Eastern Slovakia, it goes hand in hand with that. With you saying like, why you smiling, or like if you're on the street and you look happy, right?
Yeah.
You can be 100% sure there will be someone around you looking at you and be jealous. I'm like, oh, why is this guy so? Oh, he must be rich, or oh, he must be super successful. So of course he's happy and smiling.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing that. I'm not happy, right? Because I wish I could be happy as that person.
Yeah.
And that's the wrong way of thinking about it,
Yeah.
for your own personal mental health. Like
it is.
Someone happy, you should not be. But it's also hard for me. But I feel like I've been this has been something that I've been thinking about for a long time, right?
I think you're quite a smiley and chatty person.
But it's a lot. It's years of going through this like a transition within yourself, right? To be again, I am not trying to offend the whole Slovak population, but there are some good people there.
But the thing is also
but just to finish I had to go because I went out and lived in different environment, right? Like UK was a culture shock, you know, the society there, like in London. So I had to, you know, I had to think about it myself. How can I change, right? And it's out, and it's still. I will not say I'm 100% there yet, but I definitely am at least happy that that where I got so far, right? That to get rid of this, inner like a
Negativity.
jealousy or a negativity
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
being towards when you see someone doing better than you, that you
Yeah.
should be. It doesn't mean that you have to be happy
You
for
can be
that person,
inspired and
but you
motivated
can
by it.
be, but you can just take it as it is, right? Or be like good
Yeah.
for them or something, right? And
Or
and,
you can
and
also
mean
be
and mean.
inspired. You
Or you
can
can be
learn
inspired,
something. Yeah.
but like don't like lose out on your own
No.
energy because you see someone is doing better than you, and
But
you know. But
but
it's
also
hard. It's
something
really hard for us to change.
something
You
I
know.
would challenge, that there's like, especially from Scandinavia and from this part of the world, and actually like most of the world, when they think of Scandinavia, it's like a lot of people imagine it as some kind of fairy tale place where everyone is happy, everyone is smiling, everyone is doing so well, which is partially true, to be honest, like partially true. But then, why is there so many of us? Like, let's say here, like in Czech Republic, right? There's quite a lot of us that move here and do not want to leave because it's nice, it's better. I have it better than I did at home, and I don't want to move back home. Why would I? I often thought about it, like, why would I move home? Like, I kind of don't see any reason to. It would just be worse. So, and there's just a few weird things. There's also something, I met quite a few people here, also before in Denmark. Like, again, my ex-girlfriend is Slovak, and I met her in Denmark. And her sister lives in Denmark. And I know other people, like immigrants and expats in Denmark. But also here, I met a few that have studied there and so on. And there's this tendency that everyone who moves to Denmark gets fucking depressed. Everyone. Where I think here it's actually the opposite. I've met in Czech Republic, I've met everything from South American people to American people to people from all over Europe, Africa, India, Asia. And a lot of people are super fucking happy to live here. That's not the case in Denmark. Everyone gets super, super depressed. And like part of it is, of course, it rains 190 days a year. The sky is almost always completely gray. It's always windy as hell. So like there's these, it does actually affect you. Like everyone has heard of winter depression, right? Where it's always dark, so you get depressed. We have that tremendously. But more than that, it's actually you can't make friends and things like this. Like people move there, they get lonely because they cannot. It's impossible to make friends. Most people in Denmark have their friends from childhood, and that's the friends you have your whole life.
Yeah.
So like you can make acquaintances and you can be friendly with people that you meet later in life, but rarely will they actually become like a friend like your childhood friends are. Your childhood friends are like your rocks, you will always have them. At least that's my experience. And also from everyone I know who moved there, who all got severely depressed. All of them.
And I definitely can concur to the fact that from my experience of like meeting Nordic people here,
Yeah.
and seeing your way of thinking, that what was Philip saying is true, right? That they definitely, because you mentioned also that law of Jante, or how
Yeah.
was it, that it is true. They have different way of seeing the world, and it's
Yes.
definitely
Yeah.
something we could, like, let's say, me as Slovak, I could learn from, and I learned a lot already, which I am thankful for, right? Because that's the thing, right? Get inspired, or like uh, welcome other cultures and see if there is something you could transfer to your own life.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and I definitely like Nordic, let's say, how would say this Nordic way of thinking. I definitely like a lot of how you see the world, and and I am definitely been motivated to change my ways, my Eastern European ways, to how you how you deal with the world.
I certainly agree with that. Actually, like I'm also at the end of the day, I'm super happy that I am this. Well, like it makes it sound weird, like we're some kind of different species, but it's minor or major, however you look at it. But it's cultural differences. But I think this particular cultural difference is exactly the reason why we are considered to be so happy. There's also like another good example of this is we have a word which I think only exists in Danish, Swedish, and Norwegian, if I'm not wrong, we call it arbejdsglæde, which means translates kind of to the joy to work. And this is actually really, really important. It's like you can ask any, especially Danish person, this is a super big thing. Like, you should have that. You should feel like a certain joy. You should feel appreciated at your work. Way less hierarchy, like I always felt like in Denmark that my boss was a person and actually like a friend of mine, not per se a dictator or someone who wanted me to treat badly. I could always call and be like, I don't feel good today. Like, can I stay home? And they'd be like, yeah, of course. Like, they don't want you to get a negative association to being at work. Kind of like if you have a really hard time sleeping, some sleep experts will actually say, if you get into this like really bad, like you don't feel good in your bed, then you should not be in your bed. You should actually leave because you can get like a sort of anxiety towards, now I have to go to sleep. It can be the same thing with work. If you many times had experiences of like, fuck, I feel like shit today. I didn't sleep all night. I feel depressed. I feel slightly sick, and you have to go to work anyway. Then over time, that builds up to having like a negative feeling attached to having to be at work and having to go to work.
So
if
what
that
you're
makes
supposed
sense.
to do? Take a sick day?
Yeah, we call it like what is it called? Yeah, like mental well-being days. So what the hell do we call it? Like, we don't really call them as a joke. We call it that, but it's more. You don't actually need a reason per se. Like, if you don't like, at least for most jobs, as long as it's not something you do 4 days in a week, then it's completely okay to just call your boss in the morning and say like, hey, I'm really not feeling good today. Like, I didn't sleep well, or I feel sad, or something, and they will be completely fine with you not coming. Which is different from here, like, for example, right? It's definitely different from here. But also, again, this word that like arbejdsglæde, joy to work, you should feel, and I had this very much at my old job in Denmark. Like, I actually really loved it, and I felt part of like a small family, in a way. Like, listen to, appreciate it, like not like some kind of cogwheel in a machine. It was also a small company, but like not some cogwheel in a machine, but actually like a part of this and meaningful and appreciated. And this is really important to us. This is really, really important to Danish people, I think.
Nicely said. And I think this was also overall a great discussion, and it went to interesting places. We ventured to different and interesting topics, all surrounding the overall theme, which I really like that we managed with both of us being having the ability to stray away and talk a lot, and then maybe don't keep on the line. So, but I think we can end it here. I would like to ask you how did you like, last question, how did you like your stay first time on the mid-morning show with Kamil?
I really enjoyed. It was nice, and I actually think we can talk a lot more about this. So I would definitely be happy to come back for a second episode if you want.
Of course, you are more than welcome to come again, and we can explore different again and some interesting topic. So thank you, Philip, for joining in as a guest.
Of course.
Thank you all for listening, and I will also mention again, as I did at the beginning, don't forget to like on the YouTube, on video on the YouTube. subscribe, leave a comment, let us know how we're doing, how can how can I get better, or what did you like about the specific conversation, or what you didn't like, of course. I appreciate any sort of comments about that. But yeah, I think we exhausted the topic well, and yeah, I guess that will be a goodbye for today. So thank you again, Philip, for coming. Thank you all for joining in, and catch you up next time. Bye bye.
Bye.